2 weeks removed from Jake Paul winning a unanimous decision over Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. Just when you think Paul's selection of opponents can't get lower, where it's a 60-year-old who almost had a stomach ulcer that killed him. He fights a guy that the government knew they were going to deport by shortly after fight night. He wins against Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. Chavez Jr. gets deported. Raheem, I feel like you can cook on this. It's
Yeah,
it's a
let me bring this one to the
Go
table.
ahead, go ahead, please.
I don't remember the quote because, I'm the type of guy that will just paraphrase you even if I can look the quote up. I believe Jake Paul said something to the effect of, I'm going to beat him up and kick him out of the country. That's not the exact line, but you remember before
He
in
did
this
say something like that,
buildup,
didn't he?
he did. He said, you know what? He did. He said that he was going to beat Chavez up and kick him out of the country or have him kicked out of the country, something like this. And the fact that it happened, it's tragic and hilarious. It's tragic and hilarious because what the fuck is going on that allows for a fighter or a person with that warrant that Chavez had for so long to just not be acted on while he lived his life as an American citizen, got the fight, performed the fight. I don't know how many of you guys have seen the Blues Brothers, but there's a scene in there where all the state troopers are waiting for the Blues Brothers to take the stage in the final scene of the movie because they're going to arrest them as soon as they get into the arena. There's a whole escape from the arena and the whole thing. None of that even happened. It's like it's a whole card that they were waiting to play. And I have a fantastic conspiracy notion about what's going on here. Because what they're accusing Chavez of, if he had done it, there should have been absolutely no time wasted in picking this man up and making him face justice. They said that they were stringing up cartel members who had offended their bosses and bringing in Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., a professional fighter, a former world champion, to beat them up as if they were punching bags as punishment in Mexico as an enforcer for the cartel. While
So
he
he's
was
like Rocky in the first Rocky movie. He's
oh,
like, yeah, when Rocky's working for Gazzo, he's
no,
the
he's like Rocky while he's beating up those
yeah.
fucking hanging sides of beef.
Yes, but they're men.
And he was living freely in America, signing major fight deals on major networks. And then all of a sudden, then we got to go get him. No, you know what I think happened? I think the cartels owed a little bit of money. I think that they want their cut. I think the dirty little secret in boxing is that Mexican fighters who have allegiance to cartels in Mexico, which I think is more of them than we would like to admit. Part of
Canelo
the
had a brother
process.
kidnapped by the cartel, and
You know what I'm
Gilberto
saying?
Ramirez, about a year or two, had a very scary story of a family member dealing with the cartel, and this is out of their power. This is the cartel messing with them when they don't necessarily want to be messed with. So they don't got a choice
When,
sometimes.
yeah, it's when they want their money. It's them calling in their debts. It's them checking you and letting you know that we still run this. And there is a correlation now between the cartels in Mexico and the DOJ in America. Is there a collusion between allowing him to be deported to face justice in Mexico and this current administration letting the cartels get their pound of flesh, pun intended?
Wait a minute.
They
You
call it a
think,
marker.
wait a minute, Rocky.
And then the Trump administration is working with the cartel to get them their guy to get the money owed or whatever it is that they need from Chavez. All of a sudden they need it. He has been guilty, if he is in fact guilty of this crime, for some time. This is not a new charge. This isn't something that he did a week before the fight. This is something that's been on the books. So why now? Because he just got paid, and we know he's been fucking off his money for years. So before it's it's street shit, bro. As soon as the junkie gets his money, you got to go get his debt paid. Otherwise, that money ain't gonna be there for you when he comes back on the street. So you find him on payday with the check still hot in his pocket. That's what they did. I mean, It's, it's a car. What? I
Raheem's
mean,
like, we can see you.
we can see you. Essay. What is going on?
Man, well, okay. Well, if I may, what's funny is remember Jake Paul was there on election night with Donald Trump, as was Dana White. And Dana White now is going to be hosting a UFC show maybe for next 4th of July 2026.
At the
Remember
White House?
there was a couple of weeks there was a week or two ago where I was giving credit to Jake for women's boxing, but I can't put it all together, Raheem, but something's not right. He was there. Him and Dana are supposed to be at each other's necks. They can't stand each other, right? But they seem to be getting along fine on election night. And there they are to the right and to the left of Trump. And I find it, as a side note, I find it interesting that Nikisa Badarian, he was talking on Ariel Helwani the other day about he was downplaying the Ali Act. And so it's just funny to me that the Dana White contingency with Ari Emanuel's downplaying the Ali Act, and so is Nikisa. Again, they're supposed to be at odds, but they're kind of trying to accomplish something similar in that regard.
Money and power make strange bedfellows. Whatever beef they have, it's academic. When it comes down to the bottom line, nobody's about to hold that beef over the dollar bill. And yeah, they're like, fuck the Muhammad Ali Act. That's a time gone by. We're trying to get something done in a authoritarian environment. So right. Yeah, no good. And you're not going to find fighters, to be fair, working towards their own best interests. Like you don't find voters voting in their own best interest. They're looking at these fighters. They're looking at the landscape. There's money to be made. These guys want to run the game. What good is a manager to me right now? Because the promoters making all the decisions. I don't give a fuck who my manager is. In fact, promoters aren't even running the show anymore. So what does it matter? Like the same guy's running it, period. And I want to get this money while the getting is good. So yeah, you're going to find some strange bedfellows. And I am not putting this at the door, nor will you manipulate the conversation into allowing me to say that it is Dana White, it's not Nikisa, it's not Jake Paul. It is the Trump administration and the Department of Justice in the United States of America that I think have colluded with the cartels who are manipulating and running their power game with the Mexican government to get their guy back over the border so they can get their money. That's Chavez. I think that is what's happening. And that is a major, major fucking story to at the very minimum investigate. I'm just talking shit. I'm just here. I'm just watching the news and putting together what I know about life, the streets, drugs, money, and how it works, and coming to this very plausible conclusion. However, I have no investigative power, no proof, or no evidence other than my goddamn common sense. And I would like somebody to look into this shit, because to me, it looks like it's happening right in front of our eyes. It's not unlike the, you're going to love this, it's not unlike the Eubank bin egg slap. I could see it coming when you push this guy in Riyadh and you talk that shit, and then you get on stage and he asks you to duck your head in. Let me whisper something in your ear. How do you not know you're about to get hit with something when the cartel hits up the Mexican government, who then hits up the DOJ, who says we need this guy deported? This is a famous
first he's got to lose the Jake Paul.
First he's got to get that check.
Right.
And then you bring that money home where it's owed. How is this allowed to happen? They're supposed to be deporting all criminals and all this shit. Well, if this is true, he was a criminal long before he got the check, and he's been living comfortably in America all this time. And they're not sending him to some fucking far-off concentration camp or detention center or whatever name they're calling these cages and these work camps. They knew exactly where he needed to go, and we haven't heard from him since. We haven't heard shit about it.
Well,
like, come on, man. Come on.
To keep it political before I shift it back to Nikisa and Jake, there's precedent. There's precedent for the United States government moving drugs with cartels. I mean, isn't that what happened in the 80s with Nicaragua, where they did the gun trafficking, then they ran the crack through LA and South Central and everywhere, and that's right. So there is like very direct precedence, and Reagan was killing it in the stock market, like Trump's starting to. So that was like his candy to feed us. Like, yeah, I'm doing all this fucked up shit, but you're getting money in your pocket, so
Well,
just
yeah,
keep
the
doing it.
American
But
government has run corrupt operations and done
in Democrat
wild
and
shit.
Republican offices, this isn't
However,
a
this
Democrat
administration's
Republican. Yeah,
particular brand
yeah.
and then running these ICE agents throughout the streets of, northern and southern California and talking all this shit, it just seems like, boy, this is a ugh, this is a blight. This is a real in your face, like, yo, we're going to work directly with the very country and the corrupt nature of that government, in the sense that the cartels clearly have a lot of power over what happens in Mexico, in the government, in law enforcement, and have allowed this to transpire in front of our faces. I'm just saying that I'd like somebody with real investigative power, some news outlet, some government oversight committee, just to take a peek. Let's just see what's happening here. What This is so street. It's so obvious to me that it really is a deafening silence. This guy just got deported. It's Chavez Jr. Like, how is that? How is that the last thing we heard about it? Where is he? Where's the photos? What's happening with the case? Is he locked up in Mexico? What's going on?
Yeah, and I know we got a lot of Mexican fans and Mexican American fans that listen to us and are fans of the sport, and I don't want them to take me and Raheem laughing at times about this as we're laughing at a Mexican getting deported. Like that's, like
I
that's
call for an investigation of the
right,
shit. I
right.
think this is mad corrupt.
Right. But when it comes to immigration stuff, I'm in a position where I can't win. If I try to say, well, there has to be a legal process and the country is 40 plus trillion dollars in debt. It's not exactly if America was a friend's house, it's not the best time to have people over right now. The house is kind of fucked up and mom's got to clean a lot of shit up and all that.
This is not about immigration. It's
Right,
not
right,
about
right.
border policy. It's not about the DREAM Act. It's not. It's about a very specific thing that I think we just watched happen, which was collusion between a corrupt
Cartel and the United
government
States government.
cartel connection in Mexico and the Department of Justice in America doing their bidding. That is fucking wild in front of our faces. I think Chavez Jr. deserves better. I think the American people deserve answers. And I think the cartel and the Mexican government need to have a close look taken at the relationship. I want to know what the fuck is going on here.
Well, let me just circle it back to Jake and Nikisa for a second, right? Because William Shakespeare once said, "Thou do protesteth too much." What was it, Raheem? You actually probably read it, unlike me.
Thou doth protest too much.
Okay, right? And I picked Jake Paul to win this. I picked him to do exactly what he did in that fight, win a decisive decision. I knew Chavez Jr. would be listless. At no point did I think that fight was fixed, and I still don't think it was fixed. But a lot of America did, and that a lot of America did, and you're what by Chavez Jr. being held here until he could lose to Jake and then being deported, that only is going to strengthen people's suspicions about it. Because it's
But
like,
I think you go too far, because what I don't think Jake, or certainly not Nikisa, has anything to do with that part. They were just doing their thing. I don't even think that they expected Chavez to put on such a stinker. I don't believe that. In fact, I don't think it did Jake any favors, that fight, because I just did an interview with him yesterday, pretty good one. Doesn't even do any numbers. Like right now, people are not on
yeah,
the Jake train. Thank God that they've got this fight at Madison Square Garden on Friday. All these women on the card. Great trilogy at the top of the card. Putting the women up who were the chief support for Tyson Paul, now headlining their own show. All of that shit is fantastic. And you gave credit to them where it was due. But it didn't help Jake what Chavez did. And if he was going to be running some script, I guarantee you that's not how it would have been written. If he
right,
was on board with something, then it should have been, they could have really made it entertaining, and it would have been something that would have advanced the Jake Paul narrative. It hasn't done that.
right.
So yeah, I don't think they had anything to do with it. I think this is government shit. I think Jake was just going through the motions of putting his regular fight promotion together, and behind the scenes, the cartel, the Mexican government, which I might now call the Mexican American government, colluded to take this guy's money. to fucking disappear him until he paid off the cartel what is owed them. That's what I think happened.
But when you're there on election night with the president, if you're Jake Paul, and your manager is trying to wants the same act repealed in Congress that Dana wants, and I don't know, there's ways people could look at that and go like, oh, this is
I think
collusion there too.
that's a different conversation
It is.
being had, but these two things I don't want conflated
Right.
because I think they are.
Right, right. Yeah, one is a lot more serious than the other too, the one you're talking about. And I'm just I'm just saying other people will look at it and well, that's oh, they had him by the balls. They had him by the balls. They maybe they told him, you take a dive in this fight and you won't be deported, or you got, that's
Again, if it were a dive, which it clearly isn't because of how poorly the fight was received and how shit it was executed. Like if I got Chavez willing to do what I tell him, I'm not gonna tell him to fucking not throw a punch for 8 out of fucking 10 rounds.
yeah.
You know what I mean? We're gonna make this look great. I'm gonna make people at the end of my fight say,
You
"Man,
remember Lamata couldn't make it look good. That's what got him busted.
I mean, all due respect to Chavez Jr., I don't think he's a Jake LaMotta.
No, no, but that's
However,
what I'm
he
saying.
might
Even the
be in a
great Jake took
LaMotta-esque
one.
situation. He might, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, yeah. Listen, the fucking that narrative about Jake Paul fights just doesn't hold water.
Yeah.
It just doesn't. Like the fight, I think as upset as the fans were, I think Jake's probably as upset because it really could have been a moment where people started to say, "Hey, the performance he put against a live opponent in Chavez warrants him having that ranking. It warrants him getting a title shot if one of these champions is willing to face him." And it did the opposite. If he had had a good scrap with Chavez, or at least something that looked like it was a good scrap, and Chavez was reading from some script during the thing, we'd come out of the other side, and it would have rose Jake's stock as a legitimate 15 ranked fighter. And it did not do that. So,
I just gotta say, because I said this to you before we got on too. Nikisa took what little fun there still was in the Jake Paul for me out of it. It was because at least before Nikisa, Jake was just still doing like his YouTube internet troll shtick, and he was making a mockery out of MMA. Oh, these are your legends. I'm gonna box them with no experience and knock them out, which was kind of making a fun petty point. Because MMA always wins those who would win a fight, MMA, boxing, because they would probably win one. But it was fun to see kind of Jake Paul troll the MMA community. And ever since Nikisa, who used to, work over there, has come with him, he just treats it like he's managing the most serious, successful athlete in the world. And I don't know, it just kind of took some of the fun out of it. Now they take themselves so serious. There's a scene in South Park where Stan reveals that Scientology is full of shit. And they go, "What'd you say? We'll sue you, buddy. You are so sued, and we'll sue you in England, and we'll sue." And that scene reminds me of Nikisa right now, trying to sue Piers Morgan and sue everybody. It's like
that's his job, though. That's his
I know, but
man. Jake Paul is still the card. He's still the wild card. He says all kind of crazy shit. I was in an interview with Jake Paul. I asked him about the Chavez deportation, and fucking Nikisa swooped down from the rafters
to kill the fun
right out of the interview, which is his job, which is like, and it actually made for kind of a funny moment. But yeah, he's supposed to be the guy that intimidates people to not call this some kind
what
of
it is.
That's what he's supposed to do.
Yeah.
That's what he's supposed to do, and he does it well. And don't forget, they just had, what was it, at the peak, 65 million viewers on a network that had never had boxing before. I don't know that happens without Nikisa's participation. Like, you need that guy, and he's that guy, and it's working. Like, yeah, what are you gonna,